Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the March 18th Wolfeboro Police Commission monthly meeting. Before we begin, I need to read the meeting preamble. Good afternoon. As Chairman of the Wolfeboro Police Commission, I am declaring that emergency exists and I am invoking the provisions of RSA 91-8:2 3B. Federal, state, and local officials have determined that gatherings of 10 or more people pose a substantial risk to our community and in its continuing efforts to combat the spread of COVID-19. I also find that this meeting is imperative to the continued operation of town government and services, vital to public safety and confidence during this emergency. As such, this meeting will be conducted without a quorum of this body physically present in the same location. At this time, I also welcome members of the public accessing this meeting remotely. Even though this meeting is being conducted in a unique manner under unusual circumstances, the usual rules of conduct and decorum apply. Any person found to be disrupting this meeting will be asked to cease the disruption. Should the disruptive behavior continue thereafter, that person will be removed from this meeting. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. And let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their name, please state whether or not there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Commissioner O'Brien?
I am present in my house and alone at this time.
Okay. I am Chairman Steve Wood. I'm alone in my house up in my office. Chief?
I am I'm in my home. My wife is present downstairs. I'm in my study alone.
Okay. Captain Libby?
Yeah, I'm in my office. I'm alone in my office. My son is in his room.
Thank you. And also Sherry, our Executive Secretary.
I am in my dining room and my husband is home in another room.
Okay. Okay, at this time I will entertain a motion for the minutes of our February 25th, 2021 meeting.
I move they accept it as presented.
Okay. So we have a motion to accept the minutes of February 25th as written. I will second that motion. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
No.
Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner O'Brien?
Yes.
And Commissioner Wood is yes also. Before I go any further, what I'd like to do is to welcome Commissioner-elect Sean Coop. Sean, are you with us?
I am.
Is your camera enabled?
How's that?
I don't see you.
No.
Does anybody see Sean? What you have to do is enable and share your webcam.
Yeah, I tried that already. I can see you folks.
Okay. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, everybody out there that's watching, we do have Commissioner-elect Sean Coop with us. I say Commissioner-elect because a recount has been requested. That recount will be accomplished this Saturday, Town Hall, after which we will know who the determined victor is, and that individual will be sworn in and become a working member, obviously, of the Police Commission. We've asked Commissioner-elect Coop as the preliminary victor, if you will, to come and to observe the meeting, to get comfortable, and to just to develop an understanding of how things go as we move forward, just give him a jump on things for our next meeting. So welcome, Sean, to the commission, and welcome this afternoon.
Thank you.
So the next order of business is to elect a chairman for the coming year. Do we have a motion or a movement on that?
I would like to throw my support for you, Steve Woods, to be chairman.
Okay, so you are making a motion for me to continue in the following year as chair?
That is correct.
Okay. I graciously accept. I thank you. But we will take a roll call vote, and Commissioner O'Brien
Yes.
and Commissioner Wood is yes also. Thank you. Okay, at this time, Chief Rondo, if you are prepared to deliver the monthly reports.
I am, sir.
Thank you.
So if you go to your first slide in the slide deck, Captain, can you put the slides up on the screen, please?
Yeah, I'm gonna get that. Nope. There we go.
Perfect. Okay, so you'll see that we went from 42 to 46 incidents in the month of February compared to the month of January. That's a 9.52% increase. And that's fairly standard and fairly typical of what we see this time of year. Along with that, there were 69 offenses. So let me explain for the listening public. You know, you have one incident, an officer goes to the corner of walk and don't walk and deals with a complaint, whatever the complaint may be. And there may be several violations of law. Those become offenses. And so you got one incident with multiple offenses. So that's where you have 46 incidents in the month with a total of 69 offenses. Gentlemen, moving on to the next slide in your slide deck, you're going to see the February increase of 66.67% from 15 cases in January to 25 cases in February. Captain, next slide, please. Yep, perfect. Perfect. There you go. 15 to 25, again, 66.67%. So, again, typical of what we see this time of year. On average, actually, January was a slow month, you know, for COVID reasons. We typically average anywhere from 30 to 40 arrests in a month. And of course, in the summertime, it might be as high as 55. If once it's all averaged out, it averages, you know, somewhere around 33 to 35 over the course of a year per month. So ladies and gentlemen that are joining us, or those people that are not familiar, and I know folks are going to watch this later on after the presentation, these numbers in the slide deck will throughout the course of the year will fill in, and this part of the commission meeting is a little dry, and people are going to wonder, you know, why do we do this? And I just want to explain that the numbers help us direct patrols, and they give us an indication of activity, and they lead us to draw conclusions. And it doesn't make sense initially. It does over time, which is the reason we do this. But it's a nice way to see which way activity is going, and it helps us because there are other reports that the commissioners see and that the captain and I use to guide the police department's resources throughout the course of a month or a quarter. And so all these numbers do mean something. People dialing into the first time are going to look at this and go, I don't know what this means, or I can't make heads or tails of this. Well, right, you sure, because you're seeing only one small piece of a bigger puzzle. And but the good news is that right now these numbers are fairly standard, and this is about what we see for any other time of year, and to include COVID-19. So moving on to the next slide in the slide deck is going to be the traffic stops. You start to see us increase from 104 to 131. That's a 25%, 96% increase. Again, 25.96% increase. And we're getting back into it. We're going to start seeing traffic stops increase, and the level of enforcement increase as well. This past month of that, actually fairly low for the Wolfeboro PD, but only 2 tickets were issued. And that represents a 1.52% chance of getting a ticket. So I know this was Commissioner Goodgame's favorite slide. And but yeah, so you had less than a 2% chance of getting a ticket, a little over 1.5% chance. So I figured I'd just throw that in there. Captain, if you could move to the next slide in the slide deck. That's probably actually the most useful slide anybody's gonna any information anyone's gonna draw out of this. Looking at this initially is that ticket to stop ratio is actually pretty good. Collisions, this is great. This is great news. I'm really excited about this. We went from 9, which is good. So everybody, I'm a technical crash reconstructionist. I'm very passionate about motor vehicle safety. anytime we can get under double digits is good. That's great. In January, it was 9. February was 3. That's a 66.66% decrease. I will be the first one to tell you that these two slides, traffic stops and collisions, go together. Strong motor vehicle enforcement is typically going to equate to less motor vehicle crashes. Stop, end of discussion. That has been proven, and we're seeing it right now. So this is really good. I want to bring to your attention, gentlemen, that was it about 2 years ago, we had 3 months in a row, January, February, March, we had 0 motor vehicle crashes, which is, I think, the first time in Wolfeboro history. I was excited. And of course, then in the month of April, we jumped up to like 29 in 1 month. But that's awesome. Anytime we can get down below double digits in 3 is fantastic. And of course, they occurred on our major roads, right? So that's the reason why there's so much police activity on our major north, south, east, west access. Moving on to the next slide, the slide deck is going to be the police personnel analysis report. And so again, we're at the beginning of the year, but you can see the activity and it's starting to fill in. And this includes all the officers. And I do this from the beginning of the year, moving to the end of the year, so you can measure everybody. Just keep in mind, and Commissioner-elect Coop, this comment is directed to you. Just remember, when you're looking at this slide and you're looking at the officers and you're looking at activity level, remember that we have rotating shifts, and some officers end up on the midnight shift, and they may not be as productive as, say, somebody on the 6 to 2 or 4 to midnight, and they just may not have that much activity. But that's still a very important shift because it's our, what we call our high risk shift. So again, just keep that in the back of your mind when you're looking at this. Captain, next slide on the slide deck. So this is where your crashes occurred. For the 3 crashes, you had 1 on Center Street, 1 on Trotting Track Road, and 1 on Union Street. So again, not uncommon. Some of our more frequently traveled roads. Next slide.
That is all I have for slides.
So moving on, I'm going to go into the monthly activity report for the detective. So this past month, 20 cases were carried over from January 2021. For the month of February 2021, Detective Emerson investigated 9 new cases. The cases below represent all the incident arrests for the month of February. 5 cases were investigated as felonies and 4 cases were investigated as misdemeanor level offenses. At the end of February, Detective Emerson was able to clean up some of the lingering caseload and close out of cases from previous months. What he's referring to in this, and again, this is his report, what he's referring to is when we had to pull him off detective duty and put him back in uniform because of the lack of personnel that we had. That was a creation of a number of factors and issues that you gentlemen are well aware of. Detective Emerson is handling 2 separate sexual assault cases involving students at area schools right now. During the investigation, Detective Emerson has discovered additional crimes, including but not limited to aggravated felonious sexual assault, simple assault, gross lewdness, computer acts prohibited, interference with freedom, criminal restraint, and endangering the welfare of a child. Incidentally, an additional charge of possession of child sexual images could also be forthcoming pending the results of a search warrant. So I will tell you that Detective Emerson all this week has been involved in the writing and execution of search warrants. It's been very, very busy week. Actually, the last 2 weeks have been very busy for Detective Emerson. These sexual assault cases are time sensitive, require a large part of Detective Emerson's time. Detective Emerson conducted interviews at the Child Advocacy Center with the victims in all these cases. The Child Advocacy Center is a place where the victims of a crime that are sensitive in nature can sit and tell their story. Their story is captured on audio and video so that the victim does not have to relive the traumatic events over and over by telling their story multiple times to multiple people. And Detective Emerson will be meeting with the county attorney next week to finalize charges on these cases.
Chief?
Yes.
Bob?
No, I just wanted to get a clarification. Are the actors principally juveniles, adolescents involved in this cases?
Right now, we have a mix of actors at both the juvenile level and the adult level, and that's what makes these cases. And I'm actually glad you asked that because these cases can be really complex, and it makes it even more difficult when the perpetrators of the acts are juveniles themselves. So cases assigned and investigated this past month include 2 theft cases, 1 fraud case, 1 motor vehicle crash, 3 sexual assaults, 1 simple assault, and 1 extortion case. Percentage of cases closed this month is 39%. Percentage of new cases closed by arrest during the month is 0%, and percentage of caseload closed so far for the year is 40%. So you can see he's very busy. The next slide in your deck, we're not going to put it up on the screen, is the investigator. It's the Excel spreadsheet you gentlemen have on the investigator's monthly work summary. I can address any questions by exception, but I'm not going to brief that. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move on to the school resource officer report.
Yes.
So the month of February was Officer Devine's 6th month as the SRO, with 1 week off due to February vacation, which resulted in only 12 days of school. Officer Devine was still dealing with truancy issues, a trend that has been consistent with the high school and middle school due to the COVID-19, and also given that not all students are going to school and reporting online remotely, resulting in several welfare checks and DCYF notifications with the families. So Officer Devine has been working with the various state and local officials to make sure that all these kids are safe, that things are going on. In a lot of cases, we find that the students have moved out of the district and maybe in Maine or maybe in Vermont or some other jurisdiction, and they've been reporting to school all along, but those things still have to get checked out. And and of course, it results in welfare checks and everything else as well, you can imagine. And welfare checks are something that we do. She also conducted several truancy checks in February in the district. Now, I want to just mention that I think you gentlemen know how I feel about truancy checks and the police doing that. In this particular case, if we go back to the car crash that happened in November, one of the individuals involved in that car crash happened to be the primary school truancy officer, and he has since taken ill again and had to be rushed to the hospital. So this is where Officer Devine has been assisting the school district, and it's okay. It's good. It's good in that case. I understand that they need assistance desperately. They need assistance. There is a compulsory education requirement by law, and I don't mind helping out in a situation like that, and I understand the extenuating circumstances behind that. But normally, this is not something that she's going to be doing on a regular basis. But the district does have some issues right now, and they're working very diligently to get those police stuff and get other personnel hired in those positions.
Yeah, and Chief, if I may have, so what she's been doing it on a Wednesday, which has been a remote day where the school's doing their cleaning. So it's been a good use of her for helping the school at that time where the kids aren't in there. I know April 5th, they're going to be coming back full-time, 5 days in school. So that little job will probably change because the school will be filled. Back to you, Chief. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Officer Devine also reported several cases to DCYF for physical assaults, runaways, 2 separate cases involving truancy, 1 regarding suicidal ideations and the lack of stability from 1 parent, and made mental health and worked with mental health officials and OSPI PD and assisted with welfare checks on that student in that jurisdiction. During a morning drop-off, Officer Devine observed a student with shotgun shells hanging from his backpack. Officer Devine stopped him. He was extremely respectful and cooperative. Officer Devine searched his backpack after gaining permission for weapons and found nothing. Officer Devine gave the backpack to Principal Donnelly, who searched the backpack and found nothing. Shotgun shells were empty. The shells that were there because he had to show off his prowess at hunting. So a completely innocent situation. I just wanted to get that out, and no issues there. You also have her summary report as part of the commission report. If you gentlemen have any questions on that, I'll address it by exception. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'll move on to the, I did include, the next thing I want to talk about, I did include a roll-up from last year, only because the captain had come into my office on an unrelated matter, and we ended up doing this little academic exercise. And so it's relative to traffic tickets and monies raised as a result of that. So last year we had a total of 162 summonses issued with a total revenue for the state of New Hampshire at $20,102.45. So that's a lot of money. And I just thought it was worthy of reporting to the commission.
And we don't get a.
Yeah, we don't get a cut in that. No, I wish we did. I wish we did. We could use it to defray the cost of a police cruiser, but that's probably why they don't do that, right? Mr. Chairman, if you or Commissioner O'Brien have any questions, I'll address them on the reports. If not, I'd like to move into the chief's items.
Bob, you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, go right ahead, Chief.
Okay, and just before I begin, I do have one item for non-public session under personnel hiring and potential litigation. So again, one item for non-public.
Okay.
Under general budget items, does somebody have a question?
No, I was just acknowledging the non-public
Okay.
session.
Under general budget items, we conducted our first fiscal year 21 budget review as the town budget passed, and we did that review on 9 March, and obviously all our warrant articles passed. Our end of quarter, first quarter fiscal year 21 budget review will occur during the April commission meeting. So far with our fiscal year 2021 budget, there are no issues to report. And last night at the selectmen's meeting, the finance officer Casey had given a pretty healthy end of February budget report to the Board of Selectmen. I know in that report we were showing a 14% expenditure. We were essentially 3% underspent for February. We should have been at 17%. We were 14%. So that's good. She did bring up one of the, something that was because I'm tired. She did bring up one thing, and I want to pass it out. And I thought it was a revelation. And I was having some difficulty when I was looking at the budget the other day, going, "Gosh, why?" Because it appeared that we were more spent than we were, and she said, and she re-emphasized it last night. She said, "Look, there's a lot of yearly and monthly budget items for the month of March." We were talking about the month of March at this point, and you can't look mid-month and get an accurate assessment because you're not doing this essentially by week. You're doing this by month. You're doing the budget analysis by month. And I said, okay, that makes total sense. So in other words, it's difficult to drill down unless you're breaking that monthly expenditure down by weeks. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you're paying a monthly bill, but you're not breaking that monthly bill down into week segments. There's 5 weeks in March. So that made all the sense in the world, and she reiterated that last night. So again, just to be clear, there's going to be an end of quarter budget review in April. So we'll be done with the first quarter at the end of March, and by that time we will have enough data coming in to make an accurate assessment, and all the bills for the month for that first quarter will be paid. So we'll be able to take a nice deep dive into the budget. So that's good.
Chief, do we have any expenses? Do we have any bills that come in for the whole year, but they come in on a large chunk that can affect that?
Yes, all the time. All the time. We have, so this is the interesting thing about billing. So we don't necessarily always see the billing that occurs. There could be Social Security payment, could be a workers' comp payment, could be one of the long and short-term disability payments. We don't pay those bills. Those bills get paid out. Yeah, they're certainly paid out of our budget, but they're paid by KC down at Town Hall. There could be a bill that comes in that maybe we don't necessarily see that the finance office will take care of, and that could come out of our budget. So yes, and that is always a big challenge, right? Is making sure that we keep a very accurate count on, accounts payable, accounts receivable, making sure that we're balancing everything correctly. It wouldn't be the first time that we get hit with a budget or a budget deficit that we weren't expecting, and it completely blindsides us. But yeah, that does happen. Fortunately, because we keep a very close eye on the budget, and in our budget review on the 9th of March, we found a couple of errors in the budget that, myself, the captain, and Sherry were able to take to the finance office and get clarification on, and get them to put additional monies back into the budget. So, and that stuff is actually pretty common. That happens a lot, and it's due to nobody's fault. This is not an incompetence issue by any stretch of the imagination. This is a lot of moving parts to this budget. There's a lot of people that do have their hands in the budget, and you have to have it that way. It's the way it has to work. So, did that answer your question, sir?
Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Moving on. Under Personnel, Officer Peasley continues to make progress in his FTO program. He is scheduled to come out of the FTO program sometime in May, and I will continue to keep the commission informed. And in fact, I did meet with his one of his FTO officers, and he is making progress. It's not as fast as we would like, but it's progress, and progress is always good. So sooner or later, it's all going to click. In terms of police investigations and operations, February was busy for a 28-day month. This is reflected in our arrest and incident report, motor vehicle activity charts, and our detective status report, which you gentlemen just saw. In addition to all this, we remain involved in the 5-car motor vehicle crash incident on South Main Street, and that investigation is still ongoing. Additionally, we remain engaged in the fatal crash on College Road. This single-car motor vehicle crash claimed the life of a promising young man. This is truly tragic. Investigations such as these take time, so please be patient as we work through both, though both are very troubling and disturbing incidents. As always, I will keep the commission informed. In terms of police prosecutions, this past month was busy. This past month, we had 15 defendants respond to 15 charges. Of those charges, 11 were found or pled guilty. 2 cases were dismissed because of Richards or Fifth Amendment type defenses. Both cases were domestic violence related. I'll talk about that here in a minute. And 2 cases were placed on file pending good behavior with other court-ordered or directed actions such as restitution or alcohol and drug treatment added as part of their convictions, as part of their sentences. The conviction rate this past month is 86.67%, with $1,196 meted out in fines, restitutions, and penalties. With a Richards hearing, or it's very similar to a Fifth Amendment type offense, and what it means is that during the hearing, it's usually raised by defense. What it means is that the defendant can't testify, not necessarily that they're claiming a Fifth Amendment defense. It's similar. What they're saying is they can't testify without incriminating themselves in ongoing criminal matters. And though they're willing to do that, but what they're doing is basically seeking immunity for their criminal behavior. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we don't like to, granting immunity, though we have that ability to do that. We at the prosecutorial level have that ability to do that. We don't like doing that. And because there's all sorts of issues and problems that could result from something like that. So if they want to raise a Richards defense, oftentimes it's best to no process, simply withdraw the complaint. And that is what happened here. And Tim made the right call. I with this particular case, I totally understand it and agree with it. The reason that we don't want to grant immunity is because when you do that, it's you don't want to be granting immunity for something that could result in a negligent homicide or a death charge. Does that make sense? Am I saying that correctly? Prosecutors are really reluctant to do this, and rightfully so. So we did have one Richards hearing, and we did have one person claim Fifth Amendment, and we can't, if that person claims protection under the Fifth Amendment during a hearing or a trial, they can't point the accusatory finger if it's a domestic violence case. So we have no evidence to proceed. We have no other option other than to withdraw the complaint. Now, please understand, withdrawing or no processing the complaint is not fatal to the case, meaning that if we get additional evidence or additional witnesses come forward, we can always re-enter that. It's not something that's dismissed with prejudice. Okay, we can always bring it forward again, and we have whatever time we have under the statute of limitations to do that. So it could be up to a year, it could be 6 months, however much time is transpired before it got into the court. Safety and security. We have already seen the weather return, and spring is on the way, whether we like it or not. It's right around the corner. Please pay attention to the pedestrians who are out and about. In the wintertime, sand and leaves on the roadway. Soon our very talented work crews will be out cleaning up our roads, but these materials are on the roadway surfaces right now, and they represent a hazard and make the roads a little bit more slippery when on dry pavement or wet asphalt. Please drive carefully and allow extra time when you're going to and from your daily business. Lastly, during significant weather events, if you don't have to go out, don't. The vast majority of our crashes occur during periods of inclement weather. Plan for needs, cancel non-important appointments or events, and please be safe. This month under dispatch, I have nothing significant to report. Under motor vehicle enforcement, in an effort to mitigate the traffic crashes we realize monthly, we will be continuing a strong proactive approach to motor vehicle enforcement and traffic stops. As a warning to those residents in the North Wolfeboro area, I've received complaints about speeders on College Road and Started roads. We will be conducting aggressive speed reduction patrols in those areas of town. So please, if you are in a habit of speeding up there, don't. Lastly, we continue to deploy assets and patrols to our identified problem areas. Safety first. That being said, the department is continuing its enhanced speed enforcement operations in the following areas: Lana Street, Forest Road, Cotton Valley, and College Road, Started Road, Beach Pond Road, with a focus on the area between Pine Hill Road and North Line Road, Center Street, North Main Street, 109 East, Bay Street, and Sewell Road. The reason for these speed enforcement operations is due to citizen complaints and data collected and analyzed by our radar trailer. We will continue our enforcement efforts in these areas until we are sure that the speeds have come down. If you travel these roads, please be mindful of the posted speed limits. Matters of outreach and interest. And so this past month, I was happy to report that we raised over $5,000 to New Hampshire Special Olympics with our Winnie Dip. So I hope you all enjoyed that. The water was cold, the air was colder. I want to thank Commissioner O'Brien for braving the cold waters of Lake Winnipesaukee and diving on in. We've been supporting this effort.
Of everyone.
We've been supporting this effort for the last 50 years or so, and we've been able to raise over $5,000. Actually, I think it's now up to over $5,300 for that very special cause. If you missed the fun, you could tune into it on our Facebook page and see the dippers jumping into into the lake. The water temperature was 30 degrees and the air was 14 degrees. It was cold. If you'd like to still be counted and donate to this very worthwhile cause, you may do so until the end of March. None of the money goes to the PD, and all proceeds go to New Hampshire Special Olympics to support that organization's very important events for children. By the way, I just want to throw this out there for what it's worth. We were supported by Eastern Propane and Oil. They partnered with us. They gave us quite a bit of support. They brought down 5 people. They set up the warming trailer for us. They set up the patio heaters. There were 7 or 9 of those patio heaters that actually did raise the temperature of the air by about 20 degrees. And so trust me, when you're coming out of 14-degree air temperature and you know, you can get that, you know, raised up to, you know, the mid to upper 30s, that's something. I want to thank Eastern Propane very much. They were very generous. They had a team there giving us blankets as we got out of the water. That water was cold, and I really appreciated everything that they did. And I just want to say that I think it's very important, and I follow this practice myself. I think it's very important when we can to do business locally, and I do an awful lot of business locally. Eastern Propane is a local vendor, right? They are in town. They have an office in town.
I'd like to add my thanks to them too. It was fantastic to go into that trailer after being outside. But even more so, I was impressed by how many people came to witness the event. We're standing on the shoreline watching it and appreciating, you know, what the officers and we were doing. I was taken aback by that a little.
We do appreciate those spectators, and we also appreciate the very generous donors that contribute $5 and $10 and $25 to get us to that $5,000 level. And we did get some special recognition for that in a press release from New Hampshire Special Olympics. So again, Wolfeboro PD is setting the bar, setting it high, and we raised quite a bit of money, and we're happy to do so. We're happy to do so.
And you can relive this anytime on our Facebook page.
You can't relive it, you know, and it's amazing to me when you watch that video. A couple of our jumpers launched themselves off that dock, and Mia decided to do the pencil right down to the very bottom of that very deep water, and that had to be incredibly frigid cold. Yeah, so in any event,
yeah, Chief, can I add one thing back?
Sure, yeah.
I didn't get you that information earlier. Was the training for police. We did the felonies first last month with the county attorney.
Right.
Came over and taught that class for us. The whole department took it. That was a great class. It was really a refresher for us because there's so many moving parts and changing parts with felonies first these days. You and Staff Sergeant Maloney actually taught down at the academy your traffic reconstruction, and Staff Sergeant Maloney and myself, we took an internals affairs class, 2 days class, 2 day for that. So that's it.
You know, thank you for saying that. I keep forgetting to mention that. So something I do want to say to the commission and the public, we were invited about maybe 2 years ago to be adjunct, myself and Staff Sergeant Maloney, to be adjunct instructors down at the police academy for technical crash reconstruction. Both Staff Sergeant Maloney and I are reconstructionists, traffic crash reconstructionists. And they were in a bind. They didn't have anybody to teach the class. We've been going down now for the last 2 years, and we have another training session coming up in April, where we'll be going back down to do their practical exercise. So this is where we have 5 mock-up car crashes, and the academy does a nice job. They have all the vehicles down there. They have all the tools that the students need, and I really enjoy going down there. And I know the director, John Skipper, does like us a lot, and I know we get high grade. Believe it or not, on the evaluations, the students really grade us well, and we have a lot of fun. I think it's a break for them to get outside. They're not being, you know, they're not being abused by the academy staff. The police academy can be miserable, and we do have a good time, and I know they do well. They do well on their exams, and I know the academy likes the outcome of us going down there and teaching. So thank you, Captain, for bringing that up. I keep forgetting to mention that. And we've been doing that now for 2 years. And again, I know the academy is very grateful to the Wolfeboro PD for doing that. And there's not a lot of officers that really want to be reconstructionists, and I don't know why. So yeah, I don't know why they don't. It's all physics. Let's see. So I'm as you gentlemen know, I'm still doing the weekly radio talk shows with Eric Scott at WASR, and that's going very well. And so it's every Monday at 12 noon, unless it's a holiday. If it's a holiday, we don't do it because he's not working. And so please call and ask your questions and join the discussion. Let's talk and get involved and solve you have an hour to solve all the community issues. So you just have to call in. So I encourage people to do that. Both the captain and I attend a wide range of budget related in town meetings with various groups and committees as we proceed through the budget process and the normal town business process. And the captain continues to be part of the master planning process, the technical review and joint loss committees, and I continue to serve on the Governor's Commission for the humane and ethical treatment of animals. And lastly, of course, please be our guest on Coffee Connections with the Chief. That's a great TV program we do through Wolfeboro Community TV. Your safety tip of the month, I'm just going to get this out there and say, listen, it's warming up. I know there are some hardcore winter enthusiasts out there that want to see the below zero temperature. It's warming up. I think it's going to be in the 50s for once we get past tonight. We got some snow squalls coming in and so forth, and some wet weather. But once we get past that, it's warming up. It'll be in the 50s, maybe even the 60s, low 60s. Get your ball bounces in your equipment off the lake. All right, it's just that simple. It's over. It's over, right? Winter is gone. Wave it bye-bye. There it goes. See you later. Bye. It's gone. Get your stuff off the lake, and we'll put it away, and you can play with it all next year. But you don't want that stuff going through the ice. The ice is going to start warming up here real quick, and it's just going to happen. Budget analysis. Gentlemen, there will be a 2021 first quarter review in April after the recent FY 2021 budget has been uploaded into our budget system by the town's finance officer. Until that time, it's difficult to conduct any meaningful analysis on the budget as it will not be accurate. Though I conducted an analysis and review of our present budget with my command staff on 11 March, we did not see any issues which required any special attention. I will send out an updated budget and the financials in early April 2021 for that review. So I stand corrected. I did the analysis on 11 March, not 9 March. 9 March was when the town vote occurred. 11 March is when we did our budget review, and we're looking pretty healthy. And again, the town finance officer's assessment and based off her report, we were showing 14%. So we were 3% underspent. We're 14% expended of the budget. We were 3% underspent. So that's a good place to be right now. We also got, I'm happy to report to the commission, a revenue report, and it looks pretty good. So I was really excited about that, and that gives us something else to track too. So I was really happy to see that. So our finance officer is knocking them out of the park. Very happy with everything coming out of the corner office right now down there. They're killing it, and I'm very grateful for all the hard work that Casey's been doing. So with that, gentlemen, subject to your questions, that's all I really have.
Oh yeah, I won't get into the meat and potatoes of it, but I did talk to Casey today and thanked her for last night for making that catch. She thought I'd be disappointed, and I said, no, I appreciate the fact that, I own the mistake. I chose.
Well, I don't think it's a mistake at all, but okay.
Oh, I chose to be vague, but not knowing what was required. Now I do. 7th we'll revisit, and she's very supportive, but you know, I want to make sure that she understood that it was my mistake and nobody else's. So
I got one thing to add on to the chief, and for everybody that's out there that will watch this later. As we all know, the school, the SAU 49, had their meeting on the 9th to go in person 5 days a week, which is probably going to start. They plan on it April 5th, the goal date there, because the teachers are getting their vaccines on March 22nd in the afternoon there, and they have that all set up at the Kingswood complex. So I just wanted to get out there that the traffic, before you had cohort A, cohort B, Monday, Tuesday, so it's half the school Monday, Tuesday, half the school Thursday, Friday. Now everyone pretty much is going to be coming in together and going in person 5 days a week. They're still going to have some remote, but the traffic in the mornings, in the afternoons is going to increase. So I just want the public to be aware of all that. Sounds like a bus phone.
Dean is sharpening a pencil.
Whoever Sean is.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, I just
Went by.
that noise. Okay. Under commissioners items, our next meeting is April 15th. It'll be at 4 o'clock and here virtually again. We do look forward to the day when we can come out from behind these iPads and cameras and so forth and return to the annals of town hall and hold our meetings in public and actually put people eye to eye and speak with our, you know, so forth. There is one subject that I'd like to bring up. It's something that's been troubling me. Certainly it's probably been troubling Chief Rondeau. But in the February 11th edition of the Granite State News, there was a letter to the editor by a member of the public who I believe was representing himself as a member of the public at the time, although he is a member of the Budget Committee as well. I'm not sure if he generated the byline, if it was generated by the Granite, but it read that Rondeau painted an accurate picture of the police budget, which I take exception to, and I'd like to explain why. I have the letter here in front of me, and the chief, and I've referred to this too, about a budget committee cut to our budget that produced staff reductions or staff shortage during 2020, and that is in fact true. And we can support that as long as the day is. And we know what we went through, the commission went through, especially in 2020 with the command staff and trying to fill vacancies. And if you did not have an opportunity to read the report by the commission, you would see that we didn't fill the final vacancy until actually the beginning of 2021. So it was a challenging year for us. And the public needs to understand, not just with the police department, but with all budgets, budgets are presented as close to request as possible. And what I mean by that is a directive comes out of town hall and they're always looking for as close to 0% in discretionary spending. Now the majority of the budget is non-discretionary. And to explain that, our budgets are full of fixed costs. For example, within the police department, within the town itself, with all your other town employees, there are union contracts that have to be honored. And the union contracts deal with pay, you know, with wages and with associated benefits and so forth. Once those contracts are signed by all parties and then adopted and voted for by the town, we are obligated to fulfill that commitment. So that is a major portion of the budget going in. There are other parts of the budget that are fixed costs as well: gasoline, retirement, phones, all these things. There are numbers that come out of town hall. We don't generate these numbers. The multipliers come out of town hall, and then based on our empirical data, we compute that amount of money. And historically, if you look at the budgets, you'll see that the budgets come in pretty much in line with those numbers because they're programmed based on data in the best way possible. Now, in the course of a year with a budget, let's face it, a budget is a best guess, but a calculated it's really not a guess, but it's a best laid plan, if you will, to get through the coming year. So all of the numbers that go into the budget are based on years of history and knowns, but you also try to plan for the unknown. So there's a little bit of money in there just in case something comes up. And I have to commend the command staff, both Chief Rondo, Captain Libby, and even the command staff, which would have been Captain Rondo and Chief Chase before that, because over the last 10 years or so, and I know this because this came from the town treasurer / budget committee member, that the chief has maintained, or the chiefs have maintained, a very tight budget. They've managed their budget very wisely and come in with a surplus at the end of the year, which is good. That money goes back into the town coffers. But that's because, things change. Things that we do have control over, things we don't have control over can change those numbers. Unfortunately, we've always ended up in the black. By law, the chief cannot overexpend his budget. He'd be in a world of trouble if he did. So with that being said, understanding the basics of budget preparation, again, you need to understand a lot of what the budget is an amount of money that we don't have a whole lot of control over. The salaries are already established, the benefits are already established, the fixed costs are already established throughout the year for gasoline and all these other expenditures. So the only thing that ever gets asked for in excess, or what would be called a discretionary expense, would be the addition of a police cruiser, the addition of personnel, the addition of special equipment that we need, or replacement equipment. And we're very cautious about how we proceed with that. So, and getting back to the letter, Mr. Tuffer, who we did invite, by the way, to come to this meeting, he did decline. I did want to have an open discussion about his position in the letter and some of the comments that he made, but he alludes to the fact that over the last 10 budget cycles, or over the last 10 years, that our budget has gone up. So there hasn't been any budget decreases. Well, my reply to that would be tomatoes, because budgets go up, but those costs go up every year. When there's union contracts that are signed, there's always increases. I've never known my phone bill to get any cheaper, nor does the police department phone bill get any cheaper. Gas fluctuates, but other things do not. We got hit this year with, I think it was a higher cost for retirement. A lot of things that go into the budget, again, that we don't have control over. But when you're dealing with union contracts and expenses that you can't control, technically, you can't really be responsible for those expenses. They are what they are. From 2012 to 2021, he alludes that our budget went up approximately 32%, from 1.4 million to 1.88 million. I think we were around 1.8 this year, Chief. Okay. And, talked about the rate of inflation and so forth, and that the police force increased by 2 personnel over the last 10 years. These are statements, but what is not true is the fact that they haven't cut our budget. We know, and this is my little saying, but we were getting defunded before it became a thing over the past year. And, it's been from as little as $1,800, and some of these numbers are insignificant, really. We can somebody out there is running some type of equipment or something that's generating a lot of noise. No, it's gone away now. In any event, So what we have now is we have, you know, cuts that are made to the budget that are having impact in the ability of the police department to deliver the services that, number one, we want to be able to deliver to the town, and number two, and more importantly, what the town is expecting. There was a number of times this summer we were getting heat. I'd see it on social media, or we would hear it from people downtown directly about a lack of a police presence. We met in one of our meetings here back in the late summer with the Rail Trail Committee, pleading for help on the Bridge Falls path. We had a plan to have a bike out on the path this summer, as well as in the downtown area on a part-time basis. A lot of the things that we had planned for 2020 went by the wayside. And the first is what I want to address with the budget cut. And I have the minutes on the screen here where a motion was made by the chairman of the budget committee to remove 2 months of salary and wages from the police department budget. We had an opening in the police department. It was not for a new officer, it was to fill a vacancy. So the public needs to understand, for your own safety and for well-being and for the well-being of the department, every shift that we have scheduled is filled. So regardless of whether money is removed from a budget because we don't have somebody in there, you take the money away from the budget for 2 months, that 2 months of shifts, those 2 months of shifts still have to be filled. Only rather now than being filled at an hourly rate employee, they're going to be filled by other employees at an overtime rate, at time and a half to fill that shift. So what was looks to be, I think it was a $15,000 cut, cost considerably more overall because our overtime budget. What did we finish out at, Captain? We were about 40,000 overspent in overtime.
Yeah, 32 in that ballpark. Yeah.
In overtime, we overspent, which means we had to get $32,000 out of other lines. We have so much money programmed for overtime every year. That money is programmed because of knowns. That money is programmed at the request of the budget committee for known overtime. So that's what we know is going to be spent in the course of the year. We went over that by a significant amount of money, double what was removed from our budget. And that was to navigate through the year. So again, taking away a couple of months of salary and benefits had an adverse effect on our budget. And you can't take money out of an existing position that has to be filled and save money by doing that. So I'm not quite sure where the logic was, if you will. You know, and the other thing that he alludes to is that he talks about the new public safety building or the police station that's, I guess, scheduled to be built in around 2024. Is that correct, Chief? I'm not on that committee, so I don't know what they're looking at for the date, 2023.
It should be a 2023 construct with a completion date of 2024, but you know, those dates are still fairly fluid and could lift or shift probably to the right a little.
There's a comment in here that says it could add several $100,000 to the operating budget, and that's not actually true. That's going to come under debt service. That won't be part of the operating budget to build a new police station. Things like buildings and major undertakings are bonded. That's a different beast altogether. And you know, we agree with Mr. Tuffer in his assessment that we have a terrific police staff. We agree with that. I think the town of Wolfeboro is fortunate to have a caliber of officers that we're able to attract and employ here. We rarely ever hear any complaints, but we do hear a lot of praise and receive a lot of thanks, and we're grateful for that. And he also alludes that there's 3 members on the budget committee, including himself, that are former police officers or with law enforcement. That is also true. However, only one of the 3 ever was in a position where they would be making decisions like the chief and the captain, former chief here in Wolfeboro. So I really don't know that you can truly understand what goes into trying to run a department if you've never really done that. If you've worked in the lower ranks, and I'm not meaning, and I am not demeaning or lessening the value of everybody, whether they're a state trooper, a patrolman, a sergeant. But if they're not in a position to lead an entire organization, it's a different beast altogether. So I wanted the public to understand that we did not misrepresent, and the chief specifically did not misrepresent when he said that we had been cut, because we had been cut significantly. And during that, Mark, would you put the minutes back up again from that December 19th, 2020 meeting? When that amount of money was cut from the budget, Chief Rondo, I recall, recommended that not be done, and you don't know what you don't know. And this was in December of 1919, December 30th of 2019 rather. And you know, then after that cut, okay, we can try to navigate the year best we can. We really didn't have an opportunity at that point, and it wasn't worth going to the floor at town meeting trying to get that money put back in. But during town meeting, the town voted to fund Article 14, which was done to buy out or help departments with buyouts for retiring personnel. So these are people that are retiring from the town's employ that have vacation time built up or what have you, and they want to cash out, they want to retire. And in the past, the departments have struggled to find the money because oftentimes retirements are not known well in advance, especially during budget preparation. In our case this year, we knew somebody was going to be retiring at some point mid-year or so, but a second individual decided to retire. So we had two people retiring, and the first individual moved up his retirement date. They both went out on June 1st. As soon as we knew this was going to happen, the captain reached out for relief from that Article 14, which had been passed by the voters. And then we were told that that article was not going to be funded until later in the year, if at all, because of COVID-19 and the town not knowing, again, you don't know what you don't know, how the revenue stream would be for the year because of everything COVID related, people losing jobs, people not being able to meet commitments and so forth. So I know that the revenue stream did maintain healthy throughout the year, but that was never funded. We had to pay for that buyout. So that was a very, very large amount of money to come out of our budget. And as I said in my report of the commission and the town report, on July 4th, we were down 4 people, which is troubling. And again, all the shifts were being covered, but one of the things that we look at is, one, that every shift is covered. We have to provide public safety to the town of Wolfeboro. But when we're providing this safety and we're maintaining that every shift is being filled, we're also burning out our officers. Officers cannot work 16 hours a day in and day out. Eventually it'll catch up with them and start to harm their health. We've been very fortunate through all of 2020 with the additional, our folks stepped up in an amazing way. Captain Livy himself worked a lot of shifts. The chief worked some shifts. We had to pull our detective out of detective work 1 day a week to work shifts to fill all these vacancies. And the staff really rose to the occasion. We were very, very fortunate that we were able to maintain all of 2020 without any of our people catching COVID. We did have a couple of people that had to quarantine only because there was a presumptive contact with somebody that might have had COVID. Fortunately, all things came back negative, and we ended the year on a positive note in that manner. But it was a very difficult year to navigate, and I really encourage people, if they have a question, if they have a concern, if they want to know about, things about the police department, they should reach out and ask us. We are totally transparent. We have nothing to hide. We have provided a volume of information every year with our requests to the budget committee. We start out with the town manager, then to the selectmen, the board of selectmen, and then to the budget committee. And we probably put out too much information. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's a lot of paperwork, but we want everybody to understand why we're requesting what we're requesting. We feel that, you know, lately in years as of late, and Bob and Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we feel that there's a target on our back. We seem to be able to have meaningful discussion with the town manager, with the Board of Selectmen. We can have, and then we get to the Budget Committee, and it's an entirely different environment there, and it becomes very personal. I don't know why, and at times unprofessional. I don't like it. I'd like to have a good working relationship moving forward, but there needs to be some change there, and this is indicative of that. You know, I don't like false narratives being put out there. You know, if information is being released, it should be accurate, it should be full of fact, and so forth. So, Commissioner O'Brien, did you have anything that you'd like to add?
Well, I'm just sitting here and I'm complimenting you on maintaining yourself and presenting all of this information, giving it freely out to the community, and also so that perhaps some members of the Budget Committee might listen to it and have a better appreciation and understanding. Because what we have to have is a better relationship so that they understand the difficulties that we have in dealing with things. We're unique among many of the towns in Wolfeboro, and I'm sorry, in New Hampshire, because Wolfeboro has a police commission, one that works closely with the police department in order to have a better balanced budget, so that we act as an interface with the Budget Committee and the town leadership to maintain, you know, a good balanced budget, because it's in everybody's interest to do that. Having said that, we do have members of the Budget Committee who work as liaisons with us, and when we're able to work with them, they have an appreciation of the difficulties that we have to face. But I think sometimes people don't understand the consequences of when they do things, when they cut budgets, so forth, like ours, that there's a cost to it. There's a service that cannot be given to the community, where there's an expectation of that from the community to us, and we can't say anything in defense because it's not our decision. It was taken from us, and I think that's the biggest thing that you and I, Steve, face together, along with the chief and Mark, in doing this. And I hope that Sean gets an appreciation of the difficulties that we're encountering as we go together to work, you know, in the future. So hopefully this will clear some air.
Yeah, no, you make a good point. I think it's beneficial for all. We all work for the same people, and that is the voters of Wolfeboro. And I think that, you know, with our liaisons, you know, these are people that bring back our message, if you will, the information back to the Budget Committee, so that they have a clear understanding. They're kept, and they can be kept up to speed real time. You know, they you know, when the liaisons are in our meetings and they're briefed up on what's going on, they have a better understanding. You know, I felt badly to a point. It's never easy going to the floor of town meeting to restore something to the budget. You know, case in point, you know, and we've talked about police cruisers ad nauseum. Okay, we lost 4 Crown Victorias over a period of 2 years. We lost a good portion of our fleet. Okay, 33% of the fleet, roughly, whatever, was lost in a matter of 2 years. Now, we could have gone forward and said we need to replace 3 cruisers that went down this year, and, you know, in trying to get back up to 11, we had to replace 2 the following year. You know, that's a cost that has to be borne by the ratepayers, the taxpayers, rather. And we don't want to burden the taxpayer by any means. So we've been trying to do this respectfully by bringing back 1 car every year, getting back up, and then it's just 1 car in, 1 car out, as we've established in our asset management plan. But every year there seems to be the same fight over getting a police cruiser. And that's a very, very important part of the police mission, is the ability to get to the calls. And with police cruisers, you know, it's easy to say, well, you've only got 14 people. You want 11 cruisers. Is everybody going to take one home? And we've said that's not how it works. We want 11 cruisers. That's what the staff, the command staff has determined is a good working number. Out of that 11 cruisers, 4 are assigned to the chief, the captain, the detective, and the canine officer. Those individuals need to be able to respond right away if they're off duty and available, and the rest are the fleet vehicles. And they have to be rotated to a point. They can't run 24/7, 365, or they won't have much of a life to them. But then other vehicles need to be available to run, you know, the county attorney's office or the county complex for business, police business. Then they have to go to the state lab with evidence and so forth. So there's a lot of things. And then you throw in breakdowns. And we know that even with our newest hybrid Explorer that came in last year, that I believe was the heater module that failed. And to get the part, you're down a vehicle 2 to 3 weeks. The part stream right now with every auto manufacturer is strained because of COVID. There's not as many people working in the factories and so forth. So the supply stream is not very strong. So these vehicles are down for a significant period of time. And then you get 2 or 3 vehicles down and it becomes a problem. So anyway, these are things that, information that we're trying to put forward. We want to develop a better understanding. We want to develop a better relationship so that in the future, we don't have to have these same discussions, these same skirmishes, if you will, over the same issues.
Steve,
go ahead.
If I could, I want to build on something you brought up, which was to talk about going before the town and asking for funds to be put back in for the purpose of having a juvenile services officer to be repositioned because of the need. And that's the reason why I asked Chief Durando if there were adolescents, juveniles involved in those heinous crimes that were just recently mentioned, because those are very difficult cases to present, not just for adults, but also for juveniles, and that's specialized. And I have to tell you, from my own experience of having worked in that field in law enforcement, I have a tremendous appreciation for those challenges, and that I always will be in support for those positions as we move forward, because I think that's one of the troubling things that we face in a town of this size, that there's that much activity and that serious type. So again, I'm just building upon that because I think what you did, Steve, was absolutely exceptional, and I'm glad that the township voted in favor for that. And moving forward, we will need it.
I was grateful that the number was, granted, there weren't a lot of people at the deliberative session, but the vast majority of everybody supported. And I know as a community, I'm sure they would support the same thing. There are a lot of youth in our community, and we want to do right by them. And, as we said in that meeting, and if you didn't watch the deliberative session, we don't want a pipeline from the school to the jail. We want to have somebody that can integrate with the students at a younger age, at an earlier, the earliest intervention as possible, the better. If we only can redirect 1 or 2 kids in the course of a year out of 50, we've had 2 wins. Our batting average may not be 500, but we might have saved 2 kids from ending up in jail later on down the road. So there's a lot of positives. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to, beat this horse any further. But I do want to moving forward. I want to have a better working relationship. We maintain our transparency, and we are very, very willing to produce whatever documentation, whatever is asked for better understanding by all. And we will continue to do that. And if necessary, we'll continue to go to the floor, because I know Bob and I hope Sean, we all want Wolfeboro to be the best and safest community that it can be. And we can't do that if we're constantly handcuffed and we don't have the ability to deliver the services that our public expects. So, okay, I'm done. Chief, Captain, did you have anything you want to add? Or you?
The only thing I want to say, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I want to say is those minutes that the captain put up, that document that showed all the activity, that was from the Budget Committee. Those are their own minutes. Those are Wolfeboro PD minutes. Those are the Budget Committee minutes. It very clearly shows the Budget Committee chairman making that cut to the police department budget. So very, very much was a cut. It wasn't me misrepresenting anything. It was a cut. It's a motion. It was voted on. It was approved by the Budget Committee, and it happened. You were right. It happened 30 December 2019. It affected the 2020 budget 2 days before we went into that fiscal year 2020 budget. There's no getting around that. That is the truth of the matter. Period. Stop. End of discussion. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for setting the record straight. I appreciate it.
Captain, you all set?
All set. Very well said.
Okay.
Cool.
I just want to check to see. Okay, we don't seem to have anybody else on board. So at this time, then, I would entertain a motion to enter into non-public session, exiting this public session, enter a non-public session under RSA 91-A:3. Paragraphs B and D for the hiring of a person and considering pending litigation. Moved by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Wood. Roll call vote.
Yes.
O'Brien, yes. Commissioner Wood is also a yes. We will recess and reconvene in non-public. Sean, thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. And we will look forward to working with you or with Tom, whoever succeeds on Saturday recount. And if it should be you, we will brief you up on what goes on in non-public. You're sworn in.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you for being with us, Sean. Did you have anything that you wanted to add before I cut?
No, I was well informed. I appreciate today. Appreciate you allowing me to be here, and I look forward to working with you all in the future.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. And we now stand in recess.